Mitrom and Bandhuvam, welcome to South Asia Maps, the education channel that brings South Asia centric knowledge to the audience. Because of my diverse and varied interests, world geography and human ecology, I will be posting once a while on other related topics of general audience interest. This is the human ecology part or series. Part 50. That means so far under human ecology I posted meticulously researched 50 or 49 presentations before. Human ecology, human predicament, that is human dilemma, human impasse. In this bottleneck century, 21st century is a bottleneck century. We have 8 billion, that is 8,000 million people as of 2024 or 25. It will be 10 billion people by 2050. That is the bottleneck is there for those humongous population. And human ecology, humans interact with each other, interact with abiotic things and plant kingdom, everything related to humans is human ecology. The presentation today is detritivores. The detritivore organisms I discussed before, 3 of them. That is the algae in the pond and yeast in the wine making cascade or a barrel, the wine vat, and Homo colossus, gigantic resource consuming human being on the planet Earth. This is also an island. There is no place humans can go from here. That is detritivores. Algae in the pond, yeast in the wine vat, human on the planet Earth. This is similar. Detritivore, instead of organisms, we make it devices, gadgets, but more or less virtually you can consider an organism, the cars on the planet Earth. There are 1446, you can say around about 1500 million. That is 1.5 billion cars on the planet Earth. These are just 4-wheeler cars. We are not talking about the school buses, the tractors, the trucks, and so many other automobile vehicles, and millions of 2-wheeler. There are also automobiles. There are also detritivorous devices. Even the gadgets, the cell phones, this is also a detritivore. The laptop, the personal computer, all these are detritivores. So we'll see why they are. You can consider them, if you give a small life, they are also organisms. But the better word is device. Detritivore organisms, devices have a bloom life cycle. They grow their numbers tremendously. Resource depletion, they crash. So the general device bloom, device crash. Detritivores, detritus consuming. Detritus is a dead organic matter, decaying organic matter. If there is a plant or a big tree, they cut it off, it falls down. That means it died. It decays, and you see a lot of other organisms eating bacteria, surviving, or so on. Take for example, earthworm survives by eating detritus. A dung beetle eats surviving the detritus. That is the excreta of a animal, that is horses and so on. So these are all detritus consuming organisms. After we pass away and buried, we are also detritus. We are the food for certain other consumers. So there is no exception to that. Detritivore devices. Detritus means historically, millions of years back, there was the plants and other small microorganisms. They died, they got buried under high pressure and temperature. They got transformed into fossils. The coal, the oil, natural gas. The most important is oil and natural gas. You can say they are detritus. Once they were organisms, now they are dead, decaying organic material that we use In industrial agriculture, making the tractors and running the combiners and harvesters, making fertilizers from them, the urea and pesticides, the herbicides. So there are products, modified products of detritus. Car is made based upon the oil base. Of course, it also requires the iron and coal salts, some other things, but is essentially converted into this beautiful automobile. So it is a detritivore. Every day, in order to live, survive, it requires oil. You have to put diesel or petrol in it, or electric cars that are also product coming from coal burning, which is also a detritus. Coal, oil, natural gas, petroleum are all detritus, decaying organic material. These are also surviving on them. They are detritivores. They have a bloom and crash life cycle. We'll see how this happens. This is Dr. Cotton and his book Overshoot, other book Bottleneck. Some of these the concepts are coming from Dr. Cotton's work, and so far I have 50 or so presentations on the human ecology alone. I also have other playlists on my YouTube channel. I will show you. This is you can see the 5 and 10, 15 and 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Here the 50th part, I talked about detritivore algae. That was the part 47. Then next 48 part, we discussed about detritivore yeast. 49th, just we discussed about detritivore humans, Homo colossus, resource consuming gigantic human being. Colossus means very big. Then detritivore, instead of organisms, I made it simple. Devices, the cars, gizmos, the cell phones, and all those things you can add. Just cars here. That is the 50th part in this, the life cycle. And this is my main website, South Asia Maps, Reddy. You can go there, and I have more than in this YouTube channel 30 or so playlists, very diverse interests, containing around about 260 meticulously made presentations in these 30 bins, 30 playlists. You can look at them, and you can also find me posting on Twitter site India Maps too. And this is the detritus, the decaying organic matter. Earthworm is eating and living on the detritus, detrivore. This is the algal pond and so on. This particular website gives how many this detritivore devices, just cars, are present on the planet Earth. Around about 2022, you see here 1446 million. You make it 1500, that is 1.5 billion. You can go and look at them. These are all tiny organisms moving at 80 kilometers or 100 kilometers on the planet Earth. They are detritivores. They survive for their everyday existence, living on the detritus, that is the oil coming on from the planet Earth. The planet Earth. Detritivores. So I discussed about Homo colossus, Homo sapiens before, and a broader detritus ecosystem. You can also look at that in other presentations. Let's look at this, and we'll correlate with other previous 3 presentations. Detrivore means eating. Detritivore is detritus, eating. Herbivore means eating the plant material. Carnivore, eating the flesh, carnal. Omnivore eats the plant and animal, like the detritivore. And in general is how the detritus ecosystem survives. That means these organisms here, devices, they go a voyage into a new world. That means essentially a new habitat, new discovery. They find the habitat very congenial, resource laden, the new world, you can say. Their population increases. They bloom, they erupt. They bloom and they erupt. They are in anthropomorphically shrinking. That means in the human sense. These are the here microscopic inhabitants. I put in a sense for algae and yeast. Here you can say macroscopic. a little type of a sort of organism, that is the car or device. And all these organisms responded to plenty of resources. There is a plenty of iron and coal on the planet Earth. Humans just made them and build nearly 1.5 billion of them today. They run every day. They send the metabolite. They exude. There is a carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and habitat change and all those things. Eventually the habitat change, the resource depleted, and all these organisms decrease in number. Crash means decrease in number, die off. They may not die in a sense that there will be always some cars present eventually in the foreseeable future, but their number will not be 1.5 billion. What is 1.5 billion means? Currently we have 8 billion people. If you give every family of 5 people, that means 2 children or parents, something like that, 1.5 multiplied by 5 or something like that, 8 billion. That means if you uniformly distribute just cars, every family on the planet Earth gets one. This is just cars, automobiles. We are not talking about millions of the buses, the trucks, the tractors, and millions of two-wheeler automobiles, which are predominantly less energy consuming, used in the South Asia, Southeast Asia, and all those, Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh. They don't use car that much, the people, homo classes. They use a contracted version of two-wheelers. Still, they are detritivore devices. That's what it is. How do we analyze this one with other? That means 1800 steam engine discovered. Practically few cars were there. By 1900 only the royals and kings, they used the cars. There are very few cars. And there is a proliferation, the eruption, the road building, and discoveries of the oil and coal, natural gas. The roads are paved, loans are given cheaply by the banks. By the very people start multiplying them. The car prices game. This like the Ford and all those entrepreneurs, like they build the easy way to assembly type of manufacturing system, build the parts in large number. Today we have 1500 million, that is 1.5 billion. They exude extra metabolite and eventually the numbers will decrease. That's the crash. Not in a typical sense, there will be nothing available. In the Western world, there is something called coroner's report. When a person passes away, a non-medical professional goes to the site and reports why did the person die? What is the probable cause of the death? Circumstances of the death. Let's say there is an accident, 10 people involved, 5 people passed away, and the reason for this, they choked to death, that they burned away, there something like that. A coroner's report. If somebody comes and makes a coroner's report for these detritivore devices somewhere in the future, they will say they all died of self-inflicted pollution, habitat change. Once habitat change and resources are depleted, oil will be depleting, oil drum will be depleted drastically by 2050. That means humans will not be able to run the cars. This particular number, 1.5 billion or maybe 2 billion eventually by 2050 or so. The resource depletion, resource exhaustion, that is the detritus, that is the fossils, and habitat change, all these things eventually wrap into lesser and lesser contracted economy. Humans, even though cars are there, they are very expensive and they will not be able to buy them in a broader sense. So this is not an organism in a sense. We are trying to fit in the entire story. That's what it is, the detritus ecosystem, detritivore devices, cars we discussed today. And this is your presenter, Dr. Reddy, and if you are listening me at share chat sites, Mitram and Bandhvam, it will be appreciated if you post your comments and concerns or compliments, anything you want to add to these presentations, and hope that will be very valuable to you, brings a new ecological perspective compared to the general prodigal related cornucopian outdated old model of perspective of looking at the things. And see you later in the next 51 presentation. I will look at all these detrivores in one place. You will get a fascinating overview how they are all correlated.